Okay, hello everyone. I hope I'm audible. Just a second, let me just try to finish this. Yep. Hi everyone, welcome. I can see a lot of folks in the chat. Hey Abhinav, hey Samuel. Samuel is joining us from Nigeria. Hi everyone. Welcome to another session at Global Hack Week. This is going to be a super awesome one. But before we start, as we also mentioned in this chat, let us know from which city you are joining us. How was your Global Hack Week uh, data week, day one? I know it's still day one is still going on, but how was your day one? You can let us know in the chat. What are the sessions you attended? Were you part of the mini event that was conducted by we? If I'm correct. How was your day when you can just let us know in the chat before we introduce our amazing speaker for the day? Again, folks, hello everyone. Can see a lot of hi in the chat. Cool. Let's just wait for a few more folks to hop in before we start. I am just checking. Okay, just if anyone can give me an audio video check from the chat, that would be great. If I'm clearly audible and visible to you, and I should not blame my internet operator if anything goes wrong. Anyone in the chat can let me know if that works. Cool. So I did get a reply that it's going well. Again, folks, welcome. I welcome all of you. I know we are a bit 1 to 2 minutes late, but I welcome you all to this amazing session where we will be working, and a session will be hosted on advanced Defang features. But before we move ahead, very important things of how things will be proceeding throughout the session. Our amazing speaker will be up soon here. Once I introduce him, he'll be taking the session on Defang new features, the features which are up, and you can ask him questions, and he will be taking up during the session. Again, it's now important time to introduce our speaker. So leading us today for our amazing speaker, he is Rap. He is a developer at Defang and it is a seasoned expert in helping developers unlocking the full potential of Defang tools. With a wealth of experience in this field, he is here that you walk away with practical insights and like practical skills and valuable insights. Before we begin folks, a quick housekeeping rule. Make sure you keep letting your questions in the chat so that Raf can pick up during his session. And with that, let's give a very warm welcome to Raf. Hey Raf, okay, I need to
Hey,
correct it. Yes. Hey Raf, how is it going for you? How are you?
yeah, I'm doing all right. How are you?
I am super good. I can see a lot of folks already in the chat being super excited for this session. So with that, the session is all yours. If you can share your screen and start with it.
Awesome, cool. Let me open this up
Again,
here.
folks, for everyone, if you have any questions to drop in the chat, Raf will be taking it throughout the session. If you have any doubts, and I'll be going on the backstage all over to you, Raf.
Awesome, sounds good. Uh, cool. How's everyone doing today? Doing all right? Okay, so I am going to be showing you some slightly more advanced stuff. Hopefully some of you managed to make it to the session yesterday with Eric, which I think was pretty neat. So today I'm going to show you some slightly more advanced stuff. And I I did something because it's data week, right? So I was thinking we could do something with a Postgres database, and for any of you who are getting into playing around with data, I wanted to get something fun up and running for you all. But you know, switching up a workshop at the last minute isn't necessarily the smartest thing I've ever done. But I think we can still do something cool. So basically, what I was thinking is we could do a demo of how to deploy Jupyter notebooks to the cloud with a hosted database. And we can set it up so that you can load up a bunch of interesting data, and you can have Jupyter set up so that you can visualize that data. You can have all of this up and running on your own domain. One of the like use cases you can imagine for something like this is, let's say you've got an app, let's say maybe like a Django app. I know Django seems to be pretty popular. And you've got a whole bunch of data in there, and you want to visualize stuff from that data, or you want to run like scripts to analyze it. So that's kind of the use case for the project that I set up today. Now, some of it is working, but there's a couple tweaks to be made to make it as smooth as possible. So I'll be showing you, I'll give you a link to a Git repo. Normally we have these in our samples, and I was hoping to get it in there, but it's not quite there yet. I will share a Git repo so you can follow along with me. But there will be some little tweaks that we'll make along the way. And you know what? Maybe this is going to be a good opportunity to demo some of our AI debugging tools, a good opportunity for you to get a better sense of like how these projects are organized, how we use Docker Compose, and all of that. So first things first, I'm going to, also, specifically, one of the things that we're going to do today is figure out how to deploy this not just to the Defang playground, but how you can deploy to your own AWS account. So the first thing I'm going to do is get you this the link to the Git repo. So if you want to follow along, this is the Git repo. Oh, I think I need to send that to you, Vinayak, right? And then you can post it. Yeah, all right. Cool. So that is the link. It's Defang Labs. It's github.com/defanglabs/Jupyter Postgres demo. So you can check that out there. Can I get like a show of hands, I guess, in the comments? Like, which of you has anyone used Postgres before? Anyone used Jupyter Notebooks? Who are the Pythonistas in the crowd? Hopefully a couple of you. I've been seeing a lot of stuff about like Django and Flask in these chats. Like people seem to be very into Django, which is perfect because I love Django. Yeah. Anyway, so this is the repo, and before we get started, I do want to highlight to you how we normally encourage people to deploy this stuff. So normally you can head over to defang.io, and you can click portal, which will prompt you to log in. And in here, there's samples. So if you ever want to deploy a Flask app, you just head over here. There's the Flask sample. You could do Django. We've got a few different Django samples. There's one that's just a simple Django service, one that's got Redis and Postgres and does real-time stuff. There's another one that's just a demo of like how to build like a CRM with Django and Postgres. So there's a bunch of different things that you can deploy with Defang very quickly, very easily. The thing that we're deploying today from our Git repo will be added to this probably sometime in the next day or two. But yeah, you can head over to defang.io, head into the sample section, and really quickly deploy anything. You just click deploy to playground. What that will do is that'll prompt you to create a new Git repo, and you are good to go. Today we're going to be playing around. So that's kind of like the simplest way to deploy things with Defang. But today we're going to get a bit more advanced. Hopefully you did the simple stuff yesterday and you tried it out. Today we are going to clone that repo, So I'm going to pretend here that I don't have this repo already. And I will, let's see, cd, you know what, I'll just remove rmr Jupyter Postgres. Cool. And from this demos repo, I will git clone, and there it is, and code Jupyter Postgres. Actually, no, I'm going to move it. Just got here. Anything I can do to catch up? Beast of the East, you're going to want to clone this Git repo. Yep, there it is. Thanks, Vinayak. So if you want to clone that repo, you can kind of see here. Then we're going to open that up. I'm actually going to move it. I'm just going to remove the MV Jupyter. You know what? I'm going to remove Jupyter. There's a reason I just kind of want to keep the same name as I had before, so I want to remove the demo. Okay, you know what? Never mind. We'll roll with it. So we cloned it, and now we're going to code Jupyter Postgres demo. Okay. So at this point, you should have this this stuff open. I will zoom in a bit so you can see better. And this is kind of the structure of a Defang app. So if you did the workshop yesterday, you'll recognize some of this. Probably have a README if you're using one of our samples. We often have two compose files, one for local development and one for to deploy. And in here, you usually find your services. So in this particular example, we have two services. We have a database because it's data week, and we want to store a bunch of cool data that we're going to play with. And we've got a service. So in some cases, like this service or another service, which is our app, in a lot of cases, this will be like your Flask app or your Django app or whatever you're deploying. In this case, we're going to deploy Jupyter Notebooks. For those who are not familiar, it's an interactive environment where you can play with data, you can write Python scripts, you can visualize stuff. It's very, very cool. So let's take a look at this. I'm going to open up my terminal and we'll take a look at this dev file. You'll see it just extends the existing services from our other other compose file. So I'll just do docker compose -f compose.dev.yaml up. So this is going to build my stuff. That's if you have Docker. If you don't have Docker, don't worry about it. We'll get you up and running without Docker in a second. So now if I go to localhost 8888, and we'll see here that I have set this environment variable, Jupyter token, to Jupyter. So I'll do Jupyter, new. And now we'll see that I've got this Titanic notebook. So this is what a Jupyter notebook looks like. And we'll run this code. Restart. Up here you can see the process. So it's or the progress rather. And you'll see the output from each of the commands. So it runs this, and then it displays this table. It connects to our Postgres database, and then it stores our data and then visualizes it. And so average fare by passenger class and survival status. A little bit dark. But yeah, so it's information about people in the Titanic, which, where did I even load this from? I can't remember. I think it's a preloaded data set that comes with, yeah, from this Seaborn package. So yeah, it's just some data that we can play with. Here you can see, just to prove that we have this all stored in our database, so basically what happens here is we load the data set, then we write the data set to Postgres, and we select what we want, and we use pandas to read that data, and we create a couple bar plots to visualize it. So that's basically what we're doing here. And then here we just sort of, just to show that we are actually legit reading all of this from our deployed database, I just have an extra query that just selects everything and reads it and plots it out, or just, well, not plots it, just gives you a table. So here you can see that table of data coming from our database. Now, the actual like stuff that you do in here, that's not so much the focus of what we're doing with Defang. It's just kind of an example of like what you could do once you have a database spun up and you have Jupyter Notebooks spun up. But the cool stuff is that we got this up and running in Docker Compose. But we also want to get it up and running in the cloud. And that is where Defang comes in, because dead simple to run this stuff locally if you have Docker with a reasonably well put together Docker Compose file. But if you want to run the same thing in AWS, for example, it's a little bit more complicated. Like you need to understand something like ECS, RDS, networking. How are you going to connect those things? If you want to properly store your secrets, right? Like your token to access Jupyter. If you want to store your data properly, like all of that stuff becomes a lot more complicated. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Yeah, basically what Defang allows you to do is take that same Docker Compose configuration and deploy it to the cloud. The simpler case is deploying it to the Defang playground. So we've got this concept of providers with Defang. Our goal is to really get it to be super simple for you to deploy to AWS, to GCP, to DigitalOcean. I was playing around with a bit, and it's so complicated. I don't understand why it's so popular. It's just because it's free to deploy small stuff. Yeah, totally. Beast of the East. AWS is wildly complicated. And every once in a while, AWS will put out like some new service, and they'll like say that, oh, this is a service to make the rest of AWS a little bit more simple to use. And so they'll have a service that will spin up other services within AWS. But in the end, like it just becomes more and more complicated. It's really, yeah, it's a lot. You might have come across stuff like Elastic Beanstalk, which is supposed to make it easier to deploy stuff. But Elastic Beanstalk then spins up ECS instances, and it'll generate, it'll generate SQS queues in certain cases, or not. Or you want to hook it up to, you want to deploy Docker images. Now you've got to do something in S3, and you're like, why do I need to do all of this stuff? It's so complicated. And that's supposed to be one of the simple services. So yeah, let's get Defang deploying for us instead. So what you're going to want to do is head over to docs.defang.io. And in here, you can follow our getting started. So there's a variety of ways you can install Defang. If you didn't do it yesterday already, just pick one of these. I don't know why people think yeah, totally. It's wild. I want to click drag my project there, click confirm my domain name, and click connect. Yeah, I mean, totally, me too. And hopefully with Defang, you'll kind of get almost that. It's not going to be like click and drag, but it's going to be, you know, one CLI command. Maybe you got to go to your DNS to like do a couple things, but it should be almost a single command. So I like to install Defang with this shell command. So this works fine on a Mac. If you've got Windows, you can use winget. You can directly download from our release page. So head over to docs.defang.io and then just click the get started, and this will give you what you need. I already have it installed. So I'll just wait a couple seconds for you all to install that yourselves. And then we're going to do something here, echo. Okay, I already have. So I'm going to, what am I going to do? I'm going to do defang compose up. So hopefully you all have it installed at this point. Maybe if you don't, let me know and I'll slow down a bit. So I already have something deployed to my Defang account. So this is actually going to fail, but it's going to give me a nice failure. It's going to ask me if I want to bring down my old project. So I'll say, yes, bring down my old project. And then I will bring up my new project. So Jupyter Postgres demo, do Defang. So this is deploying right now. And one thing to keep in mind is if you have the Defang CLI and you want to deploy something like this, this is using like the Docker Compose file format, which actually was renamed to just Compose. But most of the time you'll still see it referred to as Docker Compose. But Defang doesn't actually require you to have, oh, shoot, you know what? Sorry, I ran that. If you tried to run it, you probably just ran into an issue. But defang commands still aren't working. Do I get to get set up my variables? Hey, Beast of the East. So if you do defang version, does that work for you? Nope, defang command not found. Okay, how did you install it? Are you on Windows, Mac, Linux? Windows. Okay, so it is harder for me to replicate. But did you use winget or did you do the direct download? Use command and went winget install defang. Okay, what did you get an error? A specific error? Or just command not found? Like when winget ran, did this work? Command and went winget install defang. Yeah. Let me know if you ran into an error, if you can see the output from like running winget and said successfully installed at the bottom. Okay, can you try, so in theory, you shouldn't have to do anything. That should set it all up for you. Can you try like closing the command prompt and opening up a new one. Or I don't know if PowerShell would work any differently. You could try PowerShell and see if it works there. I don't know if we've got any other Defang team members on in the chat right now who could help out. I tried the defang command in bash in my project folder, and as much as I hate PowerShell, I can. Yeah, that's fair. Not a huge PowerShell fan myself. Tried installing defang, but getting as page not found, it says that the link is broken. Arihant Kamdar, how did you install it? Or the page not found, is that when you try to head over here? Or is it when you tried to use one of these commands? Let's what's the defang command again? So if you do defang version, if that works, then you should be good to go. This is the portal on the left bar. There was an option to. Oh yeah, no, Arihant Kamdar, that link is actually known to be broken right now. So, oh sweet, Beast of the East, 1 point, yeah, awesome. So Arihant Kamdar, yeah, the reason I mentioned going to the docs is because we know that the portal link, we made some changes recently, and so that one's broken. But if you go to docs.defang.io, yeah, you can go to the link that that Vinayak just sent, that MLH just sent. That is where you'll find your installation instructions. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is one of the things that Defang allows you to do is you can manage secrets. So there's stuff that you don't want to like treat as like a normal environment variable. You know, if you've got a sensitive password for a Postgres database, for example, or an API token that you want to make sure people don't get a hold of. The way that we define those things in a compose file with Defang is we just leave the value empty. And then if we try to deploy with Defang, it'll tell us that you're like, basically it'll say you're missing this value. So what you have to do next is we have to set a value for our Postgres password. Otherwise, this is going to fail. So we'll do defang config set Postgres password. Right now, I'm just going to do password. So you should be able to do that, and it should work. It'll ask you to choose a provider. So we're just going to do defang for now. I'm going to do the same thing with this Jupyter token. So I'm going to do defang config set Jupyter token equals Jupyter. And I'll choose defang, and we should be good. So at this point, I'll go to my defang portal. And right now, I did start deploying something, but you'll see it's broken. now if I deploy, now that I've set these values, in theory that should fix it all up. So defang compose up. Yeah, no worries. Beast of the East, were you able to set the config values? Yes, no, maybe, perhaps. Trying to set the password, bring me a wall of info. Oh yeah, sorry. That's because I'm already logged in. But yeah, you should be able to run defang login, or usually that prompt allows you to just hit enter. So if at any point you're trying to run something with defang that requires you to be logged in and it's not working, it usually allows you to just hit enter and then it'll pop up the dialog. So like, for example, here I'll do defang login. I'll hit enter. And you can see it says I can hit enter to open the browser. So then it'll do that. And I can log in and I should be good to go. Sorry about the wall attacks. Is anyone else running into any issues? Arhat Kamdar, were you able to install everything? How about you, Coco Sensei? Trying to make me agree to terms of service. I click the link and the terms are blank. I see no agree button. My computer hates me. Oh no. Okay, so the other way you can agree to the terms of service. So actually by logging in, if you log in, like we have a thing that says if you log in, you agree to the terms of service. So just by logging in, you should be good. We also have defang terms. So if you do that, you should be able to just hit yes and agree. I wonder if this link needs to be updated. We have a new terms of service. Oh yeah, this was we had a different provider, but now you can see the terms of service over here. For now, you should use Defang as the cloud provider. So we'll look at AWS afterwards, but let's give Defang a shot. Okay, so at this point, you should be able to run this. So defang config set Jupyter token Jupyter. You select defang as your cloud provider, and it should be good. Once you've done that, so Jupyter token and Postgres password. You can see Postgres password. I just set it to password. So you can run both of those. Actually, you know what? I'm just gonna send those to you. I think we can paste this into the chat. Postgres password, Jupyter token, like that. There's no typos or anything like that. So Vinayak can post those in the chat, and that should be easy for you to then copy paste. Cool. Once you've done that, you should be able to do defang compose up. And then again, choose Defang as your cloud provider. You'll see it'll give you a few messages like this. Basically, these are just warnings. Like if it doesn't crash the command, then it means it's just sort of recommendations. So you can choose how much memory you want to give a service or how much CPU or that sort of thing. In this case, we're not going to bother. We'll just do the minimum. You'll also see one thing here that says managed Postgres is not supported in Playground. Consider using BYOC. So we've got, like I mentioned earlier, we have different providers, and we saw that pop up when you choose your cloud provider. If you use the Defang Playground, that's what we call just Defang, the Defang provider. And when you do that, you can run basically anything in Defang, anything that can be run as a container. So using Docker, Docker Compose, Dockerfile. But if you deploy to an AWS account, then you have commands like this, like xdefang Postgres, which will use the AWS managed service to spin up a Postgres database. So it spins up an RDS instance, which makes sure that you've got managed backups, that you've got a bunch of other stuff. So you're not managing your database yourself, basically. AWS is taking care of it for you. So when you deploy to the Defang Playground, this warning is just to tell you, hey, we don't manage your Postgres when you're in the playground. It's just a normal container like any other. So in here, you'll then start seeing these things. They'll turn yellow as they build. So this Postgres container is building, and this Jupyter service is building. At this point, often when it's yellow, it might actually be available already. So if you click on that link, in this case, it's not. So we probably do need to wait. But you can see here that we've got the database host is set, Jupyter token is set, Postgres password is set. Anything that we set up using the defang config command is going to be hidden in here because we treat that as sensitive, right? Like you don't want to accidentally leak an API token or anything like that. So that's why we do that. You'll see this pattern in a bunch of different deployment tools where things that you mark as secret don't show up. Any environment variables that you just set in here, these ones will show up. So you'll be able to see these here. All right. This thing should be good to go soon. Looks like our database is happy already. And I feel like Jupyter shouldn't take that much longer. Let's see, I can try it. No, not quite. Take another second. Maybe now, not yet. I can't remember what the last message is that's supposed to show up here when Jupyter is happy. I feel like it might be these things. Enter to start with Jupyter Lab. Okay. Hey, there we go. Still not, because we've got to, okay. So there's one other thing that you should keep in mind, which is, and you'll see this in a lot of related stuff as well, which is that we've got these health checks. And Jupyter has a login page that we know is accessible even if you're logged out, right? Because you need to log in. And so that page will always return a 200 response. And so we use that as a health check. So basically every few seconds, this command runs where it runs curl against this URL, and it should get 200 status. And eventually, after receiving that status enough times, then the service is marked as healthy. Now, I am noticing something though. I think what has just happened is, for whatever reason, it took too long to start, and so the health checks kept failing. Like, it took us too long to get to this point. Like, Jupyter was too slow. And so it has been marked as unhealthy. And you'll see that our AI debugger is asking if we want support with that. I'll say yes. In the end, I'm like 99% sure that this is just that it took too long. Container health checks are failing. Yeah. No, these things are fine. Yeah. The fact that it's not like, so I think that's kind of interesting with the AI debugger is when you see that it's kind of like unsure about something like this, it's like, well, it could be this. I feel like that's often a sign that it's just like resources, like you need more, you need the thing to be faster or have more memory or something like that. Actually, memory is not the case, but usually it just needs a bit more CPU. So let's try deploy. Resources, limits CPU, let's do 1. And yeah, that should be more than enough. I'll try and redeploy this. Actually, you know what? I'll push it as well, like that. You all can just pull. When I deployed it earlier, it was working fine, but I guess with something like that, if it's just like a timing issue, it's kind of hard to know. You know, one time it might work fine, and then the next time, if it goes a little bit slower, then it might not. Okay, so overall, this is roughly what should happen. This should get up and running and then you should be able to access it from this URL. So we'll check back in on that in a minute, but I do want to show you, like, even if this doesn't get fully up and running before the end of the workshop, I kind of want to show you like how you would do this with AWS. So the only thing you need to set up with AWS is you need access, right? So you need to be able to access AWS from your command line. So I'm actually going to open a new terminal. And in here, I'm going to do a couple things. So first thing, I'm going to go to AWS. I actually have AWS open here. And I will go to IAM. And this is how you create, for those of you who aren't familiar with AWS, you know, we talked earlier about how AWS is kind of a mess of services and complexity. The thing you're going to do here is you're going to create a user. You can see I already created one, but I'll do another one. I'll do create user. Let me just make this consistent. So I'll do December 7th, 2024, demo 2. And we only want to use this in the CLI, so we don't need to provide access to the console. So I'll just hit next. I'm going to do attach policies directly. And for Defang to work, we need admin access. So I'm going to do admin access. You can always filter like that. So just the first one, that's just overall admin access to the account. Next, and create user. And then in here, you'll see you've got a place where you can create security credentials. Now, this is what you're going to use to log into your AWS account from the command line. So we'll create an access key. So again, under security credentials, access key, create key, and we'll do command line. You'll see it's going to tell you there's alternative ways to log in. I personally normally use single sign-on. I find that that's a nice, secure way to authenticate things, but it's a bit more complicated to set up. So ideally, you would use something else. But in this case, and for compatibility, a lot of tools ask you to sign in this way. So we'll do a December 7th, 2024 demo to creds create key. Okay, so the way this works is you get this access key ID. I'm not going to show this because then you would have admin access to my account. So here we'll do export, and we'll do, actually, let me just double check that I have the right, it should be AWS access key ID. Actually, yeah, AWS access key ID and secret access key. So export AWS access key ID. I'll paste that in here. And I'll do export AWS secret access key equals, and then I'll move my stuff over to another monitor. To do that bit. and move back here and hide that again. Okay, cool. So I have set both of those variables. You also want to do, is it just AWS region, echo a, let me just check that. Oh, default region. So AWS default region. I usually just use US East 1. That is, oops. Export, so the command is export AWS default region, US East 1. So now if I echo AWS default region, US East 1. Yeah, that's usually just my default. Okay, so at this point, let me just double check. Perhaps our deployment is, hey, look at that. It's up and running. It just needed a little bit more CPU. So if I open this, I can put in Jupyter, oops, Jupyter login. And here we go. You can see we have the notebook that I ran locally, and it should all run. There's one thing that I'm a little nervous about, which is this little bit right here. We'll restart. Here we can see our progress. It's installing all of those packages. These are dependencies, so SQL Alchemy, PsychoPG, Pandas, Seaborn, and IPy widgets. Executed 3 out of 5 cells. New. Hey, hey, look at that. That is, oh no. Okay. Return a raw DB API. Okay. I will need to debug that. My instinct is that there's this bit right here that might not be working properly. I'm going to try something, and we'll see if that works. And then if that works, yeah, something is going a little bit wonky with that. So I'll double check to figure out why that is for you later on. I can update the readmes and stuff like that. So I'll push updates to this this Git repo. But basically, this is how you get your database and your Jupyter notebooks up and running in the cloud. I'll debug why this particular notebook isn't connecting properly, but I'll make sure that's up there. Okay, so for AWS, we set all of these environment variables. So that will give us access to deploy to AWS. So if we do defang -- provider AWS compose up, actually, I'll just do that to make it more obvious. Oh, yep. Now we get this nice little message to tell us that we don't have these environment variables. So I will do defang provider AWS config set Jupyter token equals Jupyter. And same for Postgres password. And now defang dash dash provider equals AWS compose up. And you will see that it's going to start creating all of these same things in my own AWS account. So if I head over to ECS, this is the best way to sort of get a sense of what's going on. You'll see that there's this Defang CD cluster. This is where it's actually running the deployment. So this is where, yeah, this is the thing that's actually building our containers and getting everything up and running. Hey, nice. Enjoy the first hackathon. Hackathons are awesome. Yeah, so it'll build all of your stuff in here. And you can see right now I've got this Jupyter Postgres beta cluster. And eventually, in a second here, you'll see that this, this new one, Jupyter Postgres demo, will also show up. So we'll have a database up and running on AWS. We'll have services, the Jupyter Notebook service, and a whole bunch of other stuff ready to go. Like I mentioned earlier, it takes care of networking. It takes care of all kinds of stuff that's kind of a huge pain to deal with normally with AWS. One last little thing. I know we're kind of running out of time here, but I just want to highlight that once you are ready to have your own domain, you can just comment that out. I'm going to silence this for a little bit, and you can do defang compose up again with your domain name, and then you would just run defang cert generate. That would give you everything you need to hook up your domain to your service, to your Jupyter Notebook. It would generate SSL certificates for you. All of that stuff would just kind of exist in your AWS account. Sorry, that would be provider AWS cert generate, and you should be good to go. Do we have any other questions? I know we kind of covered a lot. It's kind of a lot of stuff, but also, do we have time for questions? No, maybe.
I guess we are almost on time, but if any of the hacker have any questions, they can just fill in the chat. I am pretty sure that Raf would be super excited to answer them.
Yes.
Folks, any questions before we round off? I do have one question from my side, but I just want to make sure that all the questions have been completed asked by
Yeah.
hackers. So we're just gonna give a minute to all of our hackers. If you have any questions, and I'll just drop my question to you, Raf. Like for every other hackers who will be practicing this session, what do you think can be a good project to start with when they're exploring the Defang features? What can be a good project to start with? I'm also asking
Okay.
this for myself because I was following up through the whole session, so I thought what can be a good project to start off with.
Yeah, totally. Okay, so I think one of my favorites, because it shows off a lot of the capabilities of Defang, is the Django channels Redis Postgres. So the thing that's super cool about this one, it does like real-time stuff. which I think is always just kind of satisfying if you can have like multiple people at different computers and things just show up automatically from one to the other. I think that's pretty epic. But if we take a look at it on GitHub, you'll see that the services that it deploys, it's got a Django app, but it also has a Redis database and a Postgres database. So it kind of deploys a whole bunch of stuff. Postgres stores all of your chat messages. Redis handles real-time connections. So if you've got multiple people connecting to the app, those messages are routed in real time to each connected browser. So that's what Redis is used for. It kind of demonstrates how you can use Django channels with that. So yeah, I feel like that's a pretty cool one. And you can deploy it to the playground really easily. You can just click this button or click it here. And yeah, I think it's a good one.
Oh, cool. And even for all the hackers who are present up in the chat, this session will be available on Twitch and YouTube, so you don't have to worry in case you have to come back again and need to revisit a few things. Also, folks, make sure you're part of the Discord server for Defang as well. We also had Toki to help us list down the Discord channel link. Make sure you're also part of the Discord server for Major League Hacking in case you have any query and have any questions regarding Defang. You can always make sure to raise a ticket and someone from the team will definitely help you up. And with that, I don't think we have any more questions regarding the sessions. Really thank you so much, Raf. Even on the back end, I was trying to do a lot of things, trying to work at the same pace as you, but it was an amazing session. I am pretty sure that every hacker who was here has absolutely loved it. And in case if they want to revisit it again and again, they would be here to do so. Anything at the end that you want to say before we switch off?
Yeah, I think just join us on Defang. Like you can reach out to me directly there. So if any of you, I mean, even if it's like not Defang specific stuff, just join the Discord. If you have questions about Django, I'm happy to chat about Django. If you're curious about Postgres, I don't know, any of this stuff, I'd love to help you build. So let me know.
Yep, you heard Raf. Make sure you are part of Discord server. Tag him if you have any more questions. And with that, folks, it would be me and Raf that will be taking time off. After this stream we have today in Global Hack Week Day 2 that we and I guess I need to check who will be taking it up, but make sure you to tune in that session too so that you will know of all the amazing sessions, mini events that will be happening on day 2 at Global Hack Week Data Week. And with that, I and Raf will take a time off and we both will see you super soon. Bye everyone.
Awesome. See you, everyone.